we started eWomen Network, we were real clear. We were not doing events.
Oh,
I mean, I'm just saying.
I couldn't throw a dinner party.
The goal was always to help connect women, but how you went about it, it shifted and it evolved as you watched the demand kind of shift and change. But the goal was still hit.
Yes.
Right? And that's, I think, a really interesting thing is being able to discern between opportunities versus distractions.
That's the people math that you have to do. You have to take a list of all the people that you're the top 6 people you're hanging out with professionally and personally, and you have to ask yourself, do they inspire me or do they tire me? Are they adding and multiplying my life, or are they dividing and subtracting?
Whew.
Hey, where you been? Where you been?
Welcome
We've been
back.
waiting for you.
Goodness gracious. So many people are exhausted, and it's not because you're lazy or unfocused. It's really just because you're, working really hard towards goals that were never actually right for you. So I think today what we want to talk about is what happens when just how easy it is when you chase goals that look good on paper, but they're really heavy for you in life, and what changes when your goals finally match who you are in the season of life that you're in, because I think that that's really important. So you want to talk about why people get...
Well, I had mentioned on one of our earlier podcasts about the dance teacher lesson that your mother and I experienced. I mean, I never forgot it, and I have talked about it before because it was so, profound.
It's over 30 years because it was right after Briana was born.
So we went to dance lesson.
35 years.
35 years.
What
That's
was
why
it?
I was just saying it was. I know you're 35. I'm just saying I know it's over 30 years. Oh my goodness, courageous! No, I know you're 35. But it was shortly after she was born.
Yeah.
And it was part of the thing that we wanted to do to start venturing, getting out and having a date.
Having a date night.
Date night.
And
And I wanted to get back in shape from having a baby, so we
Was it a Fred Astaire studio? I'm trying to remember.
I think actually it was something like that.
Something like
Yes,
that, Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
So we decided we were going to go to ballroom dance class.
Right.
And never would I have thought I would have got a lesson like this. And it had nothing to do with the ballroom dancing. But what happened was we had our first day of dancing and all that. And so the teacher says, oh, gosh, I really enjoyed, you guys are really, giving us the compliments, oh, you guys are really dance well. She says, I have a question to ask you. She says, would you both be interested in exploring, maybe get involved in some of the national dance competitions? And we looked at each other and said, national dance competitions? oh, no, we weren't thinking of anything like that. She says, well, what about something statewide? Something like in the state of Ohio, because that's where we lived in Ohio. Well, how about some of the local state competitions? And we looked at ourselves and her and we said, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. And she says, or what you're looking to do is when you go on a cruise or you're out, you just want to be able to have some nice moves on the stage. I said, that's it. I said, I just want to know when to dip. You know what I mean? Like, just, but I was real clear that national was not part of the plan. Statewide, I hadn't even thought about it, but I don't know, maybe. But what we wanted was just the basic dance. And I asked her, I said, I'm just curious. Why did you ask us about the national competitions or the statewide stuff? She says, because your answer would have told me that how many times you need to be in here. In other words, if you had said, yes, I want to get involved with national competitions, I'd tell you we're going to have 5 private lessons, one every day, Monday through Friday. Then we're going to have a Saturday dance party. You'd have that kind of commitment. If you're going to do statewide, you'd be in here 2 or 3 times a week, and we'd do some competitive dancing once a week. But since all you want to do is have a few moves, dance, and know when to dip, you only need to come in here once for private lessons and once for the party. That's all we need to do. And I never forgot how she qualified us.
Yeah.
That the simplicity of knowing, and we were, kind of clear of where we wanted to go with this starting out. Who knows if we had stuck with it, and just got better and better. And one day we got into the national competition, but that wasn't our plan.
Right.
That wasn't our plan. But it was a great lesson.
And the lesson is, the lesson really is begin with the end in mind. I mean, it really does. I think the reason why people get exhausted is because they just throw stuff on the wall and wonder, look at what sticks. And they hear what other people are doing, or they, read a book and said, that's me, I need to go do that, without really stopping and saying, what is it that you really want? I mean, it really is that whole conversation about what is your moonshot? What do you want to be known for? In the very end, what do you want to be known? When people say your name, there's a lot of things that people can say about me, for example, Sandra. And there's a lot of things that if you ask me what I do, I could spend a half an hour telling you all the things that I do. But when I really think about, what is it that I ultimately, what's the legacy statement? What do I really want to be known for? Is I want to be known. I'm so clear that I want to be known for the woman who dedicated her life, her whole career to helping women entrepreneurs break the $1 million mark. Because I know it changes everything. It changes everything. And it's only 1.7%, unfortunately, do that. And so so I have to ask myself when I'm setting goals, are my goals in alignment with that moonshot?
Yeah.
Are my goals in alignment with that mic drop moment of this is what I want to be known for? Not the 1,000 things that I want to be known for, right? But for my career, what do I want to be known for? I want to be known obviously for being a great wife and a great mother and all the things, all the hats, all the things. But when it comes to my career, this is what I want to be known for. And then how do I reverse engineer from there? And I think the reason why women get so exhausted is because they never really declare what it is they're ultimately going after. And I think we get so caught up in the how, and we get worried that, well, I don't know how to do that. I've never known how to do anything that I've accomplished in eWomen Network. I mean, when I started eWomen Network, I had a consulting practice that was based purely on my individual performance. I knew when we were going into eWomen Network, we were building a different kind of a business, right? A continuity-based business model was require all kinds of stuff that I had no clue. But once I declared it, then what was interesting to me is that the opportunities of the things that I needed to learn became much more visible to me. I talk about the story all the time about how, you called me several years ago and you said, hey, I'm thinking about getting a car. I'm not a car person. I'm like, great, And he says, well, I just want your opinion. What do you think about that such and such a car? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, yeah, I mean, they're around. And I said, Kym, I got to tell you, I don't know that I've ever seen that car before. And he said, Sandra, they're all over the place, honestly. And I said, you know what? In Dallas, what you can do is you can often get them to loan you a car for the weekend. For a couple of days.
Yeah, test drive for a weekend.
Test drive for a weekend. And then that's their puppy dog close. That's their way of saying, you're going to fall in love with it. And on Monday morning, we're going to close the deal kind of thing.
Now, people might not know what the puppy dog
That's a whole other story. You can tell the puppy dog story.
I'll tell the puppy dog.
Okay, so anyway, we call it the puppy dog close. Okay, now you got it. Like, how do you make the close happen? And so I said, why don't you get it? Well, you'll drive it and I'll be in the passenger. And so we're done. Bottom line is we're done. I like the car. Kym likes the car. And he says Monday morning he's staying home until the dealership opens so that he can get the paperwork going and all that kind of thing. I said, great, I'm now driving to work. I'm driving to work. I hop on the tollway like I do every single day, Monday through Friday, to come here to the office. And I hop on the tollway and I'm looking around. I'm like, these cars are everywhere. Like, they're everywhere in white, which is what you were getting on top of it. And I remember I called Kym and I said, hey, have you bought the car yet? And he says, no, they're going to be opening any minute now. I'm going to call him. And I said, are you sure you want a car that everybody has? And the moral of the story was, I never noticed it before. It wasn't, but the minute it became into my awareness that we want that car, it opened me up into all kinds of things that were always there. Those cars are probably always there, going down the toll road the same direction as me every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, heading to their office, wherever that is. But I didn't see it because it wasn't something that I knew to pay attention to.
Right.
And I think that's the same way with goals. Until you declare that moonshot, what you really want, there will be so many things that are already there for you right now. You just don't see it, and you don't know how to take advantage of it. You don't know how to grab onto it because it's just another data point in your day. of the millions of things that you see and you notice and don't notice, right? And when you declare that moonshot, you now see things that you normally just didn't give it any attention, right? You see it and you go, oh, yes, that's exactly what I need in order to make this thing happen. And suddenly the steps emerge, right? They emerge. The opportunities, they were always there. That's the interesting thing. They were always there. You just didn't notice them because you had no reason to notice them because you hadn't made the declaration of the thing that you really want to accomplish. So I think we get exhausted because we don't reverse engineer it.
Well, also, your thoughts on this. When we started eWomen Network, we were real clear. We were not doing events.
Oh,
I mean, I'm just saying.
I couldn't throw a dinner party for 6, let alone throw a band.
I mean, eWomen Network was all online. That was the concept back in 2000. It's just going to be all online. Facebook hadn't come out yet. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We the only thing, we didn't have Mark Zuckerberg, but otherwise we looked like Facebook back then.
Yeah.
Conceptually.
Conceptually, for sure.
But my point is, we did not want to do events. That wasn't part of our goal.
Right.
So we're going to create an online platform where women could find each other and network. And no sooner did we, I found it interesting that we would we would share the story of eWomen with women, and they would say things like, "Oh, I love it. No more meetings. No
I
more
don't want another
jumping in
meeting.
the car,
Yeah, exactly.
driving, someplace. We can meet online. Just this is great." Everyone said that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's where you really learn. Listen to what they say, but watch what they do.
That's right.
What they say and what they do are two entirely different things. Because once they got into the network, the members drove us to do events.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to do, you know what I'm saying?
And that's an interesting realization too, because kind of that whole concept of Dr. Dan Benjamin, who has that whole book about who, not how. It's like you have to know what you're trying to achieve. You have to know where you're trying to go, but not be so attached to how it happens. Because if you are so tunnel vision on this is the plan and this is like, yeah, absolutely go all tilt boogie towards tunnel vision on this is the goal that I want to achieve, but don't also close yourself off and put the blinders on to the point that you can't see other opportunities outside of what you had originally seen for yourself.
Yes.
That could set you up for something even bigger and better. You know what I mean? Sometimes what you think you want and what is actually meant for you are two different things, and you have to be able and willing to be open to following that alignment, because you might surprise yourself, kind of like you did with events. And now eWomen Network is a global company with chapters having events all over the world. Every
People
single
attending
month.
our online events. I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah.
right?
And that was never the goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the goal was always to help connect women. But how you went about it, it shifted and it evolved as you watched the demand kind of shift and change. But the goal was still hit.
Yes.
Right. And that's, I think, a really interesting thing is being able to discern between opportunities versus distractions.
Do you feel like you're drowning in your business? Like you're doing everything and something has to give, but you're afraid it might be you? What if I told you there's a network of over 500,000 women entrepreneurs, all dedicated to supporting each other? A network of women helping women. I'm Sandra Yancey, founder of eWomen Network, and I'm inviting you to join us and become a member. eWomenNetwork.com. We can't wait to meet you.
There's also, you've got to navigate through, we didn't think it was going to be this hard. Yeah, I mean, it was hard when all of a sudden, technology's poured into it, right? And all the changes with that and all the things you had to learn, the setup for merchandising, the setup for processing payments. I mean, I remember when we started, we had a third party that would do all of our credit card processing because we hadn't set up a merchant account yet. I mean,
Didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, didn't know how to do it.
There was no Google in a verb sense, what I
Right.
mean, where you could just go look up things really fast,
Yeah,
We
there
were
was
saying,
even one before. What was it called? It was like Ask.
Ask Jeeves.
Yes. Ask Jeeves.
I can't believe.
Do you remember Ask Jeeves?
Wait.
Now, if I asked him what he ate 3 days ago, he would be able to tell you.
There was Ask Jeeves.
That's
what happened to
right.
Jeeves?
Yeah.
What happened to Jeeve?
Man. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, is that you can have the goal. Okay, And this works doesn't matter from the end of time. You can have the goal, but along the way, you discover, as you were just saying, there's more to this than that. You know what I mean? And you know, it was something that neither one of us. I mean, there were times you feel like, I don't know that we ever felt like we wanted to walk away.
Yeah, we did. I did.
I couldn't leave you there by yourself.
I know, but I mean, it was like, this is way harder than I thought.
It was way harder. Yeah.
I think that's life. That's a business, both in life and business, like marriage and business, that you can't both want to walk away at the same time.
Or have a baby. You know what I mean? We waited 13 years to have you.
Yeah.
Because we were never in alignment.
Yeah.
When I was ready, he wasn't.
Yeah.
When he was ready, I wasn't.
Totally.
And then finally, we decided at Christmas, I'll never forget it, and I was pregnant in January. It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
And
Love
in January
that for
1st, yeah, I know. I know. It's like,
If only it was that easy for all women.
I
but-
know. That's another story. I
yeah.
know. Believe me. But
I do believe. Remember when you interviewed Mark Cuban and you asked him specifically, what is it about entrepreneurs, men or women,
why most of them don't make it, overwhelmingly, like 97, 98%. And I remember him just like, just rolled off his tongue without thinking. I mean, like, he just knew. And he said, most people just don't want to do the work.
Yeah, just don't want to work that hard. Don't want to do the work.
It's what
Yes.
everybody, like, everybody wants what you have once you've had it, but nobody really wants to do what
what's
you had
necessary
to
to do it.
to get there.
But but the thing is,
And that's why we have to support each other. I mean, there's nothing like having a support system on those days you'd rather not. That say, you got to do this.
yeah,
Well, it's really easy to blow off.
it applies to everything. But because of my music background, I reflect on music a lot, and I think about all the guys that I knew that were like unbelievable musicians who never got a break.
Yeah.
Now you might think, yeah, but they had the talent. That should have been enough to get a break. Hey, what do you mean that should have been enough? You've got a network.
Yeah.
I mean, David Foster, one of the most prolific producer-songwriters in the world. All the hits that he did with Peter Cetera and the Earth, Wind and Fire and all that kind of stuff. David Foster was in Ken Cragen's class at UCLA, and on music, the business of music, and he got up and said, one of the most important things you've got to do in music is network, because if you don't have relationships with people, it's going to be difficult to go
No one
someplace.
makes it alone, right?
Yeah.
It
No one
it
makes
is.
alone.
No one makes it alone.
And no one really wants to work. It's so fascinating. Like I used to think it was just a millennial and Gen Z issue, but actually it's not, because I'm shocked by clients who will invest a lot of money in these high ticket programs and then not do anything. It's like, how can you throw that kind of, it's almost like a subconscious, like, okay, I
I'm
spent
working
the
on my
money,
business. Yeah.
so it's going to work because I spent the money, but you don't actually do the work to get your return on your investment. And it floors me how often I see it, actually more often than not, unfortunately. And it is a phenomenon, I think, people want abundance, they want success, they have these big goals, they want to make this big impact, but you have to be willing to back it up. And I think that we're in this era, there was this whole, like life balance, revolution, and it's almost like we went too heavy on the life balance that we forgot that we have to run a business too. And there is a tug and a pull, and there are seasons that require you to sprint and
be out of balance too,
and
by
be
the
out
way.
of balance.
Yeah.
And be out of balance. There are sprint seasons, and then you have moments where you can take a rest, and then you have your rest seasons and your recovery seasons, and you have to have that tug and your pull. But if you really want to achieve greatness, you have to be willing to sprint longer than most people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were talking about one of the things, and research has proven this out, that one of the things that affects people more than anything, more than diet, money, is being alone, being isolated, not engaging with people. And for entrepreneurs and business people, it's about, engaging in I call it networking with people to stimulate your thinking. Because like even right now, someone may hear what we're talking about right now, and that might be enough to to spark something, that they're hearing the same thing they've heard earlier, but only they're hearing it different right now at this moment. It's really, as I just had a birthday, and I remember you've always heard me. I've shared with us that don't ever use the retire word with me. Retire. That's not part of my vocabulary. You know what I mean?
Because there's research that goes with that.
Yeah, there is research that goes.
Documented medical research.
But
when you start talking about retiring, often what comes with that is this overwhelming sense of lack of purpose. Lack of purpose has a physical impact on you.
Or I'm not relevant. I'm not relevant
Yeah.
anymore. You know what I mean? Hey, you meet someone. Oh, I'm retired. I'm not in that. No, it's we evolve as people. But I think, like right now is one of the most unbelievable moments in time for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, AI is ushering in a whole new set of skills.
Yeah.
And, like you said, you love it. I love it. We all love AI. But I also have people that are, friends of mine that are like, oh man, I don't trust that AI stuff. And I don't, well, I don't trust the internet. I don't trust
The news. I don't trust.
I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
to not trust with what's going on, but there's a lot to trust too. And there's a lot to plug into.
Well, it's throwing the
and
baby
do-
out with the bathwater.
Yeah, right.
People that, the whole absolute kind of attitude of not leaning in. I actually don't know a lot of those people because I find myself not spending too much time there.
Yeah.
I move.
Yeah.
I just find myself moving. I love being around other people who are excited about the opportunities that are in front of us. And those are the people that I want to spend time with. Those are the people that I want on my team.
Yeah.
Those are the people that, I love socializing with because we're excited about the opportunities that are ahead of us. And I do think you have to take inventory of the people who inspire you and the people who tire you.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't have a bad instance. I don't have something that's disappointing, something that feels, that I've seen that's sabotaging, whatever it might be, and I don't have a reaction. I just don't stay there long. I move on, and I regroup. And I think that's the people math that you have to do. You have to take a list of all the people that you're the top 6 people you're hanging out with professionally and personally, and you have to ask yourself, do they inspire me or do they tire me? Are they adding and multiplying my life, or are they dividing and subtracting? And, we're forced with our new coaching program that we're in, they're really forcing us to look at, the people that we hang around with personally and professionally and challenging us. How can you say you have 10x thinking and not make sure that everybody that's around you is in alignment with that? Because you can't have people, you can't have one person that is in alignment with it. It's not that they're bad people, it's not that they're wrong people, but they're just not on your locomotive.
And that's a hard truth, I think, for most women to come to terms with, because there are going to be people who you're going to have to remove from your circle or remove from your team as you grow. You've often talked about it, but it's one thing to talk about in a metaphorical sense. It's another thing to truly do it. But relationships really are, you do have some people who are meant to go with you the whole way, but kind of like when you're shooting for that moon and you're on that rocket ship, to get the rocket ship up in the air, it has those boosters on it. You talk about this a lot. It has boosters. And then to get it the rest of the way, some of those boosters have to break off. They're not meant to go the whole way. And there are some people in your life who are boosters, and they are hanging on too long, and they're going to hold you back. And
or you're hanging on to them too long. It's not their fault necessarily. It's your fault.
It's your fault.
You're trying to make them be something they don't want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to let people define what it is how they want to live their life. Your responsibility is to say, are we in alignment?
Yeah.
And sometimes we can go so far, and then we have to have just this agreement that we need to go in different directions. That doesn't make you wrong, and it certainly doesn't make them wrong.
Right.
It's just time to go different paths,
And
right?
I wish it was that clean always.
I
but
know.
Sometimes it's not. More often than not, that division is hard. And sometimes it is as easy as just not being available for the coffees or not being available for the meetings anymore. Sometimes it's just easy enough to just kind of like let the natural distance start to happen between you. But sometimes they don't let that happen. And there is an unfortunate kind of like, well, we need to change this dynamic. because I'm not going to tolerate this kind of energy around me in this stage of my life. Or if it's somebody in your business that you just really need to let go of.
I think the one thing that I've learned this year in December, what I've learned in the last month is, are you surrounded with people who are up leveling beyond what you ask them to do?
Yeah.
And what's even written down. I mean, that was the one thing that he was saying. Like, you need to be looking for people that are saying, hey, I saw this and I just took care of it.
Yeah.
That, hey, I just, you know what I mean? And now you've got people that are thinking ahead.
Yeah.
And thinking beyond the written goals, thinking beyond just,
My to-do list.
My to-do list.
Right.
That are like
boxes.
Really, they're taking responsibility for their own elevation. And then when you see that happening, are you acknowledging it? Are you rewarding it?
Yeah.
Are you, what are the things that you can do to let people go, yeah, I love that you're doing that, and I'm noticing it.
Yeah.
And the rewards could be having them attend your AI Edge thing, or taking them on a business trip, or
giving them a bonus,
right? Or investing in the next skill. You know what I mean? That they say, I love it when someone comes to me and says, and it's happened, hey, I know that some people have an Adobe license here and I don't have it, and I've always wanted to learn it. Sandra, if you would, get me an Adobe license, I'll learn it on my own. I'll take some YouTube classes or whatever, and I'll start doing these 3 things that you normally farm out to somebody else and pay for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all day long, girlfriend, boom, make it happen, And then when she started doing it, then I was looking for ways to support her and help her, personal things too. And she needed to take care of some personal things that came up. It's just so exciting. It wasn't part of her job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she said, I want to learn this. I want to do
That's what
this.
an A player is. And
Yeah.
I want to be surrounded by A players this year for sure. Yeah.
You can't 10X. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We really do not have a choice. You can't, as he said, you can't 10X with anything but A and A plus players. I mean, it's a different elevation. It's not, are you exceeding all that you were hired for, or that we, it's not just meeting.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you look at kind of exceeds all, exceeds most, meets all. Mm-hmm. Meets most, does not meet. We think of the thinking that I'm on is the succeeds, the meets all is a C player that you're passing. You're passing. When you meet everything that we have, allocated to outsource to you, I'm thinking of people that you outsource as well. When you meet that, you're a C player. Most people say, I'm meeting it, I'm an A player. That's not an A player.
Yeah.
That's you've met it, you're passing. Now, if you want to go bigger, you have to say, how are you exceeding? Mm-hmm. How are you beginning to exceed that? Mm-hmm. Exceed most of it, exceeds all of it. The exceeds most becomes a B player, the exceeds all is an A player. And the question really, and then I have to look at myself.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing that? Am
Yeah.
I exceeding all of what's expected of me right now?
And that's a hard mirror to hold up.
That
You
is.
are your own boss, and you really have to say, am I meeting my standards? Because you're the leader and you're setting the tone for the rest of the team. So if you're not showing up as the A plus player, it's hard to expect other people to show up as that A plus player. And having that self-management skill is a hard one to develop.
And the version of Sandra that ended with December 31st is not the version of Sandra required in 2027.
Yeah.
In 2026, in the new year.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? I don't have the luxury of just learning on the job. I got to put in extra stuff
Yeah.
to really be that 10X leader.
Yeah.
I don't know how to be a 10X leader. So I'm learning it, and I've got so much to deliver here. I can't always do it while I'm here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 10Xing comes with really great rewards.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's really fascinating, this discussion, because I remember when I was putting together the trip for our Pinnacle members to go to Africa.
Yeah.
And I was sourcing and talking to people on our team and, people that we work with, contractors that we work with that help us with other events and things like that. And set me up with a lead to speak to one person who then set me up with someone else. And I was
Followed the
trying-
relationship trail here. This is very powerful.
and I was just noticing what their enthusiasm was or wasn't, how engaging they were. You know, because they were in different parts of the world, really. But I remember the day that I decided, this one person I've been talking to, she just, in this particular case, she just didn't have the enthusiasm, the level of excitement around what we were trying to do.
You can do this.
Yeah.
You can do this. On this day, you can go here.
Yeah.
But it was like,
As opposed, compared to the woman that I ended up bringing on board, who not only was unbelievable and put together an incredible program, but also did a lot of things that I didn't expect.
yeah.
Things that, oh my gosh, you're going to be here, and going with us, and she would go ahead of the whole group. She just did a lot of things that really surprised me and got us into places that the other person couldn't. The other person had said, "Oh, they're sold out. We can't get you in there." This person was able to say, "No, I got you in there."
Like almost 30 people,
You know
too,
what I mean?
not
Yeah.
just two of us.
You know,
Right? I mean,
but I'm-
like, it was crazy.
But it was just,
Or we were all worried about the luggage amount, the weight of our luggage after we left Cape Town and flew to the safari. They had a weight limit. And she's like, she showed up and they put all of our luggage in the van. She says, "I'll see you at the airport." We arrive at the airport thinking we're going to have to get our luggage and go through all the things. She comes to me, she meets us at the airport. She goes, "Done. Done."
yeah.
Remember? I mean, just this, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but all of us. I mean, listen, energy, human energy, enthusiasm, excitement, changes everything.
Yeah.
On top of performing, but then what's your attitude like? You know what I mean? Your approach, because that's part of the experience. And wasn't that a good?
Yeah.
To think about that whole African trip.
I mean,
what we
I want
learned
to
from that.
take Kristen everywhere.
Yeah, you wanna
She's like,
bottle her up.
I only do Africa. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Because she was just, I crave her. And she's now the standard.
Yes.
We now measure everything against her
How's
to
your-
the point that I'm like, I want to go back to Africa.
Yeah.
But really, I had 3 people to choose from, and ended up going with.
They all
with
had
her.
the qualifications.
They all had the qualifications, but she brought an energy, a vitality
Yeah.
that the others didn't. It made me feel good, and I felt like this. I felt like I want what she's bringing to us. I wanted to bring that to all of our guests.
So can we bring it back?
Yeah.
So the whole thing was, why are you exhausted? Do you feel like you're dragging the people around you to come with you, or do you feel like they're like the wind beneath your wings?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think we get exhausted because we just feel like we're constantly like, pulling people along.
Rallying the
Right.
troops. Yeah.
Are you surrounded with people that aren't happy for the goals that you've set? Are you noticing that when you have a win, they're not necessarily applauding? Like, okay, or, you know what I mean? Or are you surrounding yourself with the people that are not only have the direction and the advice and want to elevate and make themselves better to make the goals better and all of that? Or are you feeling like you're just really pulling along weight
Yeah.
that really isn't elevating, that's sort of slowing your locomotive down?
Yeah.
You want everybody leaning forward, you want everybody excited, and the thing is, your job isn't to change people. That's the big aha for me, because sometimes I want it more for other people than they want it for themselves. The reality is, you got to get in touch, Sandra, with noticing what's happening, having a conversation, right? And then getting really real with, do you feel like you're pulling people?
Yeah.
And if you are, those are the people to release.
Yeah.
They're not bad people. That's what the most important message. They're not wrong. They're not bad. They're just not right for you.
Yes. Preach. Preach.
Right? So let them go be right for somebody else whose goals are in better alignment. Because it's just really it's an alignment conversation. Right? And for me, it's been very, I've done a lot of journaling, meditating, thinking, all about this in the last, 30 days.
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling like nobody's happy for you, then you need a new group.
When we with our celebrity science sessions, when people come in for the day, and we put up on the board, we use this Disney technique where we put up on the board, what's going right in your business. And that's very revealing. And while you're listening to this is something you can apply for yourself right now. But you can use a Post-it note on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But the header or the title would be, what do I love about my business? Or what part of my business do I love? And then list all the things that you love about it. What parts of my business drain me or I can't stand? Mm-hmm. And that list is very important. That part of yours that you can't stand. That you got to look at and say, listen, I can't stand that. Well, would you want to hire someone who can't stand that part of your business working for you? Mm-hmm. I mean, the point of the matter is there are people who would love to do that part that you can't stand to do. And you've got to replace that part of your business or your activity with someone who loves it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can focus on the things that only you can do.
Yeah.
As you always say.
I was talking to a woman not too long ago, just to kind of, I think put a nice bow on this. And, she's been dating a guy for a really long time who, she loves him and she wants to marry him. But, it's been years, 7-8 years, and he still hasn't proposed. And, what I realized that I needed to tell her was, at some point, you're going to have to make this decision. Because what is his, I'm not sure. What is his, I'm second guessing. Somebody else is saying, you're the very person I've been looking for my whole life. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think it's true in business. There are people who are looking to work with you who will say, I've been looking for this my whole life.
Yeah.
Those are the people.
Yeah.
Those are the people.
So if you're listening to this and you feel seen, I would urge you to share this episode with somebody that needs to hear it too. Subscribe to the next one. This is a really deep, really meaningful conversation. And what I think you need to know is she doesn't just mean business. She means millions.